Good evening, folks, and welcome to Waste Communities Go Green's webinar on the Cincinnati Recycling and Reuse Hub. Faith Communities Go Green is an impact team of Green Umbrella, Greater Cincinnati's regional sustainability alliance that spans 10 counties in our 3-state region. I have put our websites in the chat box there, and I encourage you to visit them and to join us. There are links there for joining us. There's a form to fill out, or if you're interested, you can put it in the chat tonight and let us know. And also in there is the Recycling and Reuse Hub website. Faith Communities Go Green reaches out across all faith traditions and respects them while encouraging their united action to care for creation in their faith and in their lives. We've been in existence for a little bit over a year now, and we have 3 active groups: education and lifestyles, advocacy, and facilities. And my name is Ken Wright, and I am the leader of the facilities group, and that we are the sponsor of tonight's talk. Our group helps congregations find ways to reduce the impact of their buildings on the environment. And our technical manager for tonight is the Green Umbrella intern, Claire Grewley. And thank you, Claire, for being here and making this session possible. And if you have technical problems such as sound and video, etc., you should address them to her, because doing so to me will not accomplish what you need.
Hi, I'm Claire. Let me know if you have any technical difficulties. You can message me directly in the chat by clicking the blue drop-down box and then clicking my name, Claire Grueling, or you can just type it in the chat too. Yeah, happy to help.
Thank you, Claire. And our speaker tonight is Colleen McSwiggan, who is the managing director of the Cincinnati Recycling and Reuse Hub. She was previously the manager of the chemistry lab and the chairperson of the sustainability committee at Mount St. Joseph's University. In this capacity, she organized electronics recycling events and led the Beyond the Bin recycling initiative. And for her sustainability work at Mount St. Joe and in the community, she was awarded the St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Award by the Sisters of Charity and the Teacher Environmental Award by the Greater Cincinnati Earth Coalition in 2019. And she is also a star member of Green Umbrella's Faith Communities Go Green Facilities Committee. Okay, I do need to let you all know that we will be recording this presentation, and will be available in a few days. And Claire will send you a link to everyone who's been registered. And I encourage you to forward this link on to other folks that you think may want to hear it but could not be present. The idea is to disseminate information and not to hold it close to your vest. Please hold your questions during Colleen's talk. You can send your questions to me via the chat, or just wait and ask them live at the end of her presentation. There should be plenty of time for questions to be answered. Now, it's a great pleasure for us to bring you Colleen tonight. I'm sure you will find her presentation informative and inspirational. Colleen?
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, can everybody see that okay? Okay. So the talk is entitled New Ways to Increase Recycling and Reuse in the Greater Cincinnati Area, specifically at the Cincinnati Recycling and Reuse Hub. So we are a new nonprofit. We just opened our doors on April 1st, but we've already done some pretty good things, I think. So we were officially created in 2020, early 2020, and then COVID, specifically as a resource to create a one-stop drop for people to bring items for reuse and recycling from all over Cincinnati that we could then take to other organizations. The idea actually came out of sort of 4 different organizations. It started with Zero Landfill Cincinnati, which began in 2008, And that is a way to collect design samples. So flooring and tile and wallpaper samples from design studios and architectural firms, and find a place to repurpose those. So teachers and artists could take them for their projects. The second program that joined to join or to form the hub was what I was kind of involved in. So Mount St. Joseph University's Sustainability Committee, we had community electronics days that were once or twice a year at a parking lot, and people would just drive through and drop off their recycling electronics. So TVs, refrigerators, et cetera, et cetera. And it was really one of those events that was kind of the spark for the idea for the hub, because we had too many people in line, not enough places to go with their stuff. And I thought there's got to be a better way to do this. And really the only way I could see kind of beyond that was having a permanent location year round, where if we had too much dropped off, we could take it inside until the truck could come back and get the rest. The second program I was involved in at Mount St. Joseph was what we called the Beyond the Bin collection. And this was actually inspired by something that had been done at St. Anthony's Parish, where they collected things that could go to different places, such as shoes and denim and oral care packaging. So they were kind of like a collection place for it, and then they would take care of getting things to where they needed to go. But it wasn't things that could go in your regular recycling bin. And then the fourth program that joined to be part of the hub was Pleasant Ridge Montessori had a TerraCycle program where they collect packaging for TerraCycle. TerraCycle is a for-profit company that partners with companies like Procter & Gamble and Colgate and Unilever to collect their packaging and then recycle their packaging. Our mission for the hub is to change how people think about things, and then to provide a place where almost anything can be recycled or reused. As far as changing how people think about things, we want people to think about the entire life cycle of the items that they use in their lives, whether it's something, if they buy it and it sits on a shelf somewhere for 40 years and they look at it and say, I like that, and then throw it away, or is it something that they actually have an active use for on a daily basis or every other day? And then also just kind of taking into consideration, is this something that they want or something that they need? And then taking into consideration the whole life cycle again. So what went into making that product, what will have to go into the disposal of that product. And the reason that we're doing all of this is we want to help mitigate the effects of climate change by increasing the reuse, recycling, and landfill diversion rates. And reduce, reuse, recycle is in that order for that reason, because reduce should come first, reuse should be second, and then recycling is kind of a last resort if you can't, minimize it sort of upstream, so to speak. And there are different ways that we fulfill our missions. The most obvious for most people is that we have collections and connections. So we have drop-off events. We've had them for electronics recycling in our parking lot there at the hub. We have drop-offs during regular business hours. We refer to people to other organizations if there's something that they have that we cannot take, for instance, building materials. And then we try to find new outlets for items. So people have called us and said, hey, I've got XYZ. Is there someplace we can take that? And if there's something, we do a little bit of homework sort of, and then do a little bit of Googling and see if there is somewhere where we can take those things. And then we can start collecting those at the hubs or at the hub. And then the last thing that we do is we offer items for reuse for free to the public. So this can be the design samples that I mentioned for the zero landfill, but then it can also just be other things like school supplies and art supplies. And I'll kind of get into a little bit of that a little bit more later in the talk here. The other way that we try to fulfill our mission is the education. So this is the kind of making people think about what they're using, how they're using it, and then trying to help make them have a broader understanding of where things can go and sort of the impacts of what they use, how it impacts the resources of this planet. We do this a couple different ways. First, we've got our website, and that kind of lists sort of the nitty gritty of the hub, what we can take, where other things can go, what things cost if we have a fee for them. Social media, so we have a Facebook page, a Twitter, and an Instagram account, and we are very active as far as answering questions on those. We have one board member who that's kind of like her sole purpose is to answer any of the questions that come in, and we get a lot of them. We are always happy to get emails and phone calls as well, and we'll answer questions as best we can. And then we also try to promote other organizations in the region and then around the world. We don't need to be the sort of the problem solver for everything, but if we can help people connect to the other organizations that can help them, figure out where to go with something, then we're happy to do that. And then we also give tours of our facility. So that's something where people always kind of say it's an eye-opening experience to come up to our 4th floor, because we have 20,000 square feet and it gives people a better idea of the scope of what we're trying to do. And as far as what we do take, there is a lot. This is just a partial list of all of the items that we will take for free. Go to our website for the full list. Karen Hurley, who's on this, is one of our sort of very frequent volunteers. So she can tell you this is probably just the tip of the iceberg. But as far as what we do take, we take egg cartons. We have farmers that'll take those for reuse. We have teachers that'll use those for products or for projects. We take footwear in all conditions as long as it's reasonably clean. We take all number 2 to 7 plastics and flexible plastic. So flexible plastic is kind of anything that's a bag or shrink wrap. Some of the things could go to Kroger, and you're totally fine taking those to Kroger, but if for some reason it's not convenient for you to take them to Kroger, we can take those as well. We can take styrofoam, and this includes all types of food styrofoam, as well as kind of the packing styrofoam that you might get with a TV, etc. Office supplies, wrapping paper and party supplies, prescription bottles. We prefer to have the labels off of those if we can, just because that's kind of a privacy issue. If you're okay with your name getting out there, that's fine, but the more that you can take off, the better. Plant pots, and a lot of those go for reuse, but kind of when we have too many, we can also send those for recycling. Colored pencils, crayons, dried markers and pens, empty glue sticks, corks, denim, eyeglasses, hand tools, foil line packages. So that's chip bags, other granola bar wrappers, things like that. And then medical supplies. So things like crutches, walkers, and then packing material. And this can be the packing peanuts. This can be the air pillows. This can be bubble wrap, etc. And just the kind of our gold standard is everything must be clean and dry when it comes to us. Just, we don't want anything to be stinky. We don't want to end up with bugs and things like that. And then there's a whole nother or 2 other sections of what we can take for free. And this is stuff under the TerraCycle sort of umbrella. So this is what I mentioned earlier. This is that for-profit company that will take packaging from other companies and help them recycle it. Most things are either brand specific or kind of generic. So brand specific, for instance, we can take all of the Kroger flexible packaging. So this would be Simple Truth, Private Selection, and Kroger brands. So it could be a package of cheese. It could be muffins. It could be chips, things like that. So we can take all of those bags as long as they're clean and dry. Other things, like I said, are more of a generic sort of broad thing. So we can take any granola bar and nutrition bar wrappers. We can take drink pouches. So that's kind of the Capri Sun drink pouch kind of thing. For oral care, that's kind of broad. So we can take toothbrushes, we can take toothbrush packaging, we can take floss containers, all of that. So, we can take empty toothpaste tubes. That all goes in the oral care area. And again, this is just a sort of partial list. I want to say we have about 40 different collections that we have for TerraCycle. So this is kind of some of the bigger ones. Go to our website for more details on all of the rest. And then zero landfill. So this is the design samples that I kind of mentioned earlier. So a lot of this comes from design studios, architectural firms, where we'll get carpet squares, we'll get tile, wood flooring, fabric swatches that may be kind of like a whole pack of, 40 swatches all together, where it's all the same kind of fabric, but in 40 different colors. Pavers, so, for making a patio and things like that. And then just miscellaneous design elements. We've got somewhere it's kind of like a carved wood, I don't even know what you call it, but something that could be added to a project just to give it maybe a little bit of more interest, I guess is the best way to put it. So all of these are available for free for our takeaway days for the zero landfill things. And then there are some things that we take for a fee. And this is because we end up paying a fee to the companies that then take them for us. So we can take tires, and that's truck tires, car tires, bike tires. We've actually even taken one, I think, from a wheelbarrow. Batteries, and this is pretty much all batteries, any battery that you would find in a house except for automotive batteries. So NiCad, nickel metal hydride, the standard alkaline, button batteries, lithium batteries, the car seats, but that's the plastic part only. So if you have a car seat, you need to kind of take all of that covering off, anything that would be sort of fluffy, and then cut the straps off. And then those actually go to our electronics recycler. And then the light bulbs and lighting ballasts. The light bulbs, most light bulbs are $1 a bulb. Some things are more expensive, like we got some fancy ones from a stadium once, so those are more expensive. And then the lighting ballasts, if you can, the lighting ballasts, for those that don't know, are kind of the basically backup batteries for when you're starting a fluorescent light. When you turn it on, there's a little bit of a charge in the ballast, and that's what kicks the light on until the electricity starts flowing. If you can take those out of the actual light fixtures, that's helpful, because otherwise it takes us a long time to get those apart. And then almost all electronics we can take. So this would be TVs, computer monitors, CPUs, printers, microwaves, blenders, all of the cords, cell phones, laptops, almost everything. The only thing that we can't take in that kind of category is things that would be a biohazard. So we can't take, for instance, blood glucose monitors, because that's a biohazard issue. And we can take smoke detectors. And then we can also take all electronic media. As far as we know, we are the only organization collecting like VHS tapes, cassette tapes, things like that in the Cincinnati area. And then we can also take CDs, DVDs, record albums, memory cards, memory sticks, game cartridges, all of the cases for these. And there's some directions online as far as sort of what should be taken out of cases and just brought to us separately, and what can be, just brought to us as is. And then this is, if you come to the hub, so we are at 911 Evans Street, but it's kind of a misnomer because there is no door on the Evans Street side of the building. So you actually have to come around to the back of the building and then enter off of Woodrow Street, like Woodrow Wilson. And if you're kind of looking at the back of the building, go all the way to the right side of the building, and then there's this small garage door there. And this is kind of the entrance to our receiving area. So when you come in, kind of all around that area, you can sort of see in the picture there on the left, there's shelves like the one that's shown in the picture on the right with different bins for everything. There's some big boxes for where we collect some of our plastics for especially the numbers 5, 6s, and then all the kind of the flexible film, which is sort of all the bags. And then on the left side of that picture with the garage door, you can kind of see one of the green bins. That's where we collect the plant pots. And then there's other bins there with the different kinds of styrofoam that we collect as well. And when you come into the receiving area, we usually have at least 2, if not more, volunteers there to kind of help you get stuff to where it goes. We know it can be overwhelming because we do take a lot of stuff, but it's one of those things, after you come once or twice, then you kind of have a better idea of what do we take that you have in your waste stream, and you kind of get a better idea in your mind. Okay, this is how I can organize things when I bring them to the hub to kind of make it more efficient when I get there. And then just, will help you get things to where they need to go. Usually everybody's got a bag of, okay, I don't know where this goes. This is oddball stuff. What can I do with this? And we're happy to help answer those questions too. Sometimes it's, the answer is, okay, if it's polyurethane, that's got to go in the garbage. But for the most part, I'd say probably 70 to 90% of what people bring, we can figure out sort of what category it could go in and be recycled. So as I said, this is the receiving area. This is about 1,600 square feet on the first floor. And then the actual place that we store everything is up on the 4th floor of the warehouse. So we have 20,000 square feet. This picture is about half of it, maybe a little over half of the full area, kind of looking to the north in the building. So this is where we keep a lot of our plastics. You can see kind of the big boxes there on the left and right. A lot of the ones on the right are the ones that have the numbered plastics. So the 2s, 3s, et cetera. And then the stuff on the left is a lot of the sort of oddball plastics. So what we call the plastic foam. So that's some of the packing kind of material. And then sort of beyond that you can't really see in the pictures, where we keep all of our electronics, and then our light bulbs and batteries. On the other side of the building, so like what would be to your back at this is pretty much our entire reuse /0 landfill area. So that's where people can come and shop, quote unquote, because it's all free, to take what they want, whether it's plant pots or shoes or office supplies or packing materials or any of those design materials that I talked about for zero landfill. And then as far as where things go, so we have a lot of places where things can go, and we are trying to actually add to this list so that we can take more things. The electronics go to Recycle Force. They're in Indianapolis. They're a nonprofit as well, and we partner with them. They had an existing relationship with the Sisters of Charity when I started doing the electronics recycling days there. And although their business is recycling electronics, their mission is to help people that were previously incarcerated get a steady job history, get job training, and kind of get back on their feet. So we keep working with them because they're a nonprofit, and it's kind of cool to see some of the people that we've worked with, for a number of years working at the events to, finally not be there because they've got another job and they've moved on. The Civic Garden Center and the Cincinnati Permaculture Institute have both taken a lot of plant pots for us. The Civic Garden Center uses a lot of those for their green flea and their plant sale in, I think it's May, when they've got people, to call up and say, hey, I've got irises, I need to divide my garden, where can I put these? The Civic Garden Center has pots to give them for that. Cincinnati Permaculture Institute actually uses a lot of the pots specifically to start their own seedlings and sprouts that they can then grow. Souls for Souls takes almost all of our shoes. That is also a nonprofit, and they sort of take what they can for reuse, and then anything that is not, wearable still, they can take, basically have nonprofits or micro enterprises around the world. So in Africa and South America, and they will take the materials. So they'll take the leather or they'll take the shoelaces, what have you, and then take what they can and use that as sort of material to make other things that they can then sell as kind of a form of income. Veolia is a for-profit company. They're in Wisconsin, and they can take all of the batteries and light bulbs. Matthew 25 Ministries, most of you are probably familiar with them, I would think. They're here in Cincinnati, and they do a lot of disaster relief. So they get a lot of our medical supplies like the walkers and crutches, and then also a lot of the clean prescription bottles. So they'll send those to, if there's a flood and people need to get a 10-day supply of heart medication, they'll use that for those, or the prescription bottles for that. Blue Jeans Go Green is kind of a cool program. So they will take all denim, kind of any condition, as long as it's, been washed sort of thing. They will shred the denim, and then they turn that into insulation for houses. And a portion of what that company makes every year is donated to Habitat for Humanity's house builds. Brightmark is the company that takes most of our plastic. So they'll take the 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then what we call no number plastic. So it's plastic that does not have kind of the recycling triangle on it. They have kind of a new process. It's a chemical recycling process. So they are able to take all of those different plastics, heat them up to a high temperature under low oxygen conditions. And then kind of as they bring the temperature down, they're able to get diesel fuel, which they sell to BP. So that's less infrastructure that BP has to build to get, more fossil fuels out of the ground. They can also get naphtha, which is used as a building block for new plastic. So it actually is slightly more closed circle than a lot of other recycling is. And then the last thing that they get is industrial wax. So that's in cosmetics and crayons and just other lubricants and things like that. Green Disc takes most of our media. So that's the CDs, DVDs, VHS, cassettes, all of the cases. TerraCycle, I kind of mentioned before. So they take the packaging from P&G and Kroger and things like that. Eco Development takes all of the non-food styrofoam packing materials, from around TVs or what have you, or any of the coolers that people might get like a food delivery in. They're actually in Mason, and they heat it up, kind of densify it so that it takes up about 1/10 of the space. So basically taking all of the air out of the styrofoam, and then they sell that to Owens Corning, and then Owens Corning uses that to make insulation for houses. And then Tire Discounters obviously takes tires. And then how are we funded? So we are a nonprofit. We are entirely volunteer except for one part-time warehouse manager who just started last week. So a lot of our funding comes from individual donors. We've actually been very, very happy with how things have gone this year so far for our funding. So we've been able to pay our rent. We've been able to pay to ship out some plastic. We've been able to pay to get, some other stuff taken out. We have also done fairly well for grants. We've gotten a couple of different grants to, first of all, get all of our equipment for electronics recycling, sort of materials handling things like pallet jacks, and get pallets and the Gaylords, which are those big boxes that kind of were in that picture earlier. We had a grant from the Ohio EPA that helped buy most of our baler for plastic. So that's the, kind of what we put all the plastic in to condense it into a smaller amount of space so it's more efficient to ship it. And then the Ohio EPA grant also was the main funder for our cargo van as well. And then we have not gotten too much sponsorship wise this year, but that's kind of something that we're going to be working on more this coming year, just because we've had other things going on. And then we do have a certain an amount, almost about a quarter of what we get our funding from is from the recycling fee. So that's the fees for the electronics, for the light bulbs, the batteries, et cetera. And then we get a small amount too from TerraCycle. So the more that we ship to TerraCycle, the more we get back, but it is a pretty small amount, like for each object. So that might be like a Capri Sun pack. It's maybe a penny. So it kind of takes a while for that all to add up. But so far we're not doing too badly this year, if I do say so myself. As far as how we're doing and kind of our impact so far we've had almost 4,800 plus likes and then over 5,200 followers on Facebook. So that's actually pretty good for something that's only been open since April 1st. We've had over 75 tons of items collected and then sent out for recycling or reuse since April 21st or since April 1st of this year. We have 19 active board members. We're called a working board. So everybody has kind of their own role, whether they're keeping the books for all of the finances, whether they're taking care of all the social media, whether they're putting together newsletters. And then we have 17 different partner organizations that take our recyclable items. And then we have one facility right now. Eventually we want to have some satellite hubs, but that's kind of down the line because we've got other things to do before then. And then as far as our impact, and again, this is just since April 1st. So we are pretty proud of this number. We've already sent out almost 50 tons of electronics. We've sent out almost 10 tons of plastic. So that's 2 semi-truckloads, 3 tons of styrofoam. So that's 3 semi-truckloads, 1,500 pounds of packaging shipped to TerraCycle, 1,800 pounds of shoes that were sent to Souls for Souls, almost 9 tons of items that were taken at zero landfill events. A lot of that is tile because it's very, very heavy. But that was still a lot that went out the door. And then 651 pounds of art supplies and 539 pounds of school supplies. And those are taken by teachers and just parents that need them and kind of to whoever needs them. And as far as how you can help specifically, we are always looking for volunteers. We always need hands. What's the saying? Something many hearts make light work. So we usually need at least a couple volunteers to help people sort of get things to where they need to go for our collection area. And then we always need volunteers upstairs too to help package things like the shoes or to break down styrofoam so that it can be more compact when we send it out, or to help go through plastic and stack plastic so it can go into our baler. So hands are always welcome. You can always bring items to us for recycling or reuse. Right now, we're open just 2 days a week on Thursdays from 12 to 6 and Saturdays from 10 to 2. And that again is just limited because we're basically all volunteers. So it's kind of what we can manage at this point. We always are very happy to accept monetary donations just because that helps us keep the doors open, helps us pay our rent, helps us pay for the gas to get things to where they need to go. And then we're always happy to just having people to help us spread the word of what we're doing. So that can be word of mouth, just talking to people. It can be liking our page on Facebook or sharing our page on Facebook. And then just helping us to connect to potential sponsors or donors as well. If you think that somebody might be interested in what we're doing, we're happy to meet with them to give them a tour so that they kind of get a better idea of what we're doing and why we're trying to do it. And then this is just our contact information. I'll actually be sending this to probably Ken or to Claire after this. So it can be posted if need be, so that everybody knows how to find us. And that's it. So I'll stop sharing here. And then if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer whatever questions we can.
Now let's see, let me check this chat. No, I don't see any there. So,
Yeah, so if anybody has any questions and they just want to turn on their microphone, that's totally fine too.
Okay, I have a question. I know that
Okay,
I
Susan.
think originally you took #1 plastics too,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
you are not now. Will
Yes.
that be changing you? I guess whoever you took
Yeah.
those
Yeah,
ran
so
out of space.
we hope it will be. So that the #1s had originally been going to Brightmark, so the same company that takes most of the rest of our plastic. But because their process relies on low oxygen, that wasn't working. When you heat #1s up, because #1s are made with oxygen, when you heat them up, they release oxygen. And what happens when you have a high temperature and oxygen? You get a fire. So they said, that's not working so well. So they stopped taking the #1s. We do have a board member who has been working on trying to find another outlet for #1s, and she has a lead on a company. It's in California, but they will probably pay for shipping. We're just kind of waiting on more details on, how often would they be able to take it? Does everything have to be baled, which we're assuming it will? Will it have to be a truckload at a time? So we're just kind of waiting to find out more details. And as soon as we kind of have all of those details, nailed down, then we'll be putting something on our website and our Facebook page so that people know, hey, we can take these again.
so Rumpke does #1s too, don't they?
Well, so they will take #1s if they're bottles and jugs, but most of what we get in is the stuff that Rumpke can't take. So it's what's called thermoforms. So that would be the berry containers for strawberries or blueberries and things like that. So it's kind of like a clamshell where the top comes over and sort of attaches on the corners.
I have a question about the fees.
Mhm.
You said some things cost fees. Can you give me an idea of how much some of those fees are?
Yeah, so we try to do a flat fee sort of whenever we can. So for the TVs and anything with refrigerant, we kind of have a dividing line of, does it take 2 people to carry it or 1 person to carry it? So a big TV, so something that 2 people would have to carry, is $35, and then a small TV, if 1 person can carry it, it's $25. For anything that would be a refrigerant containing appliance, so refrigerator, freezer, dehumidifier, air conditioner, something that's large, so 2 people carrying it would be $25, something that's small is $15. Now, if you don't have TVs, and actually it's TVs and computer monitors under that kind of category, and you don't have anything with refrigerant, almost everything else is $10 for everything in your car. So that could be printers, microwave, blender, all of the cords, speakers, all of that kind of stuff. The only exception to that part is if you have the light bulbs or the batteries, or the smoke detectors. So smoke detectors are $5 each. Most of the batteries are $2 a pound, except for lithium batteries are $6 a pound. Most of the light bulbs are $1 a bulb, except things like halogens are, I think, $6 a bulb.
So it's $10 for what's in your car
Yeah.
for those
And
batteries?
unless you've got the items that are specifically, per item fees.
That pricing is on the website, right?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah, and actually, if you go under what we take, there's kind of a drop-down menu, and it's what we take for free, what we take for a fee, TerraCycle items, and zero landfill items. And then there's also what we don't take.
Okay, we had a question from Susan. It says, when you say you accept cosmetics, do you take lipsticks, compacts, makeup brushes?
Yeah, so we
etc.?
take all of those, but they need to be empty and reasonably clean. So this is just the packaging for those kinds of things. So if you've got, say, a compact that had rouge in it or something like that, chip out the rest of the rouge, do a quick rinse, and then after it's dry, you can bring it to us. And then we send that off to TerraCycle for recycling.
Other questions?
I have a question.
Mhm.
Would
Sure.
you, if another nonprofit has, in the case the church has a lot of fluorescent lights, is there some consideration for a reduced fee for a nonprofit?
We could try to, but it's one of those things where we still need to be able to pay, say, for our gas and things like that to send things off.
Right.
But we could potentially work out something.
All right.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, send an email. And if you know like numbers of like exactly how many tubes and things like that, then that'll kind of give us a little bit better idea of how much wiggle room we might have.
I can do that.
I have a question.
Okay,
You mentioned quite a number of items that seems to me would be kind of difficult to clean, like chip bags,
Mhm.
potato chip bags, I'm assuming you're talking to, and you need everything clean. How do you take care of things that have had food in them?
Yeah, so for things like chip bags, you literally just need to kind of do a quick rinse, dump it out, and then just let it dry. For some things, like if you do have berry containers, if we get to start, taking number ones again, that might be a little bit more if, say, the berry containers have been sitting a little bit, in the fridge and get sticky and things like that. But pretty much just a quick rinse will take care of most things.
Okay, thank you.
what governs what's recyclable and what isn't? Colleen?
Really, it's just a matter of, and a lot of what we take is not necessarily recyclable. It can also go for reuse. So it just kind of depends. If something is in good condition, then we'll probably put it on our reuse shelf. Like we've had kind of like pretzel, I don't even know what you call them, tubs for lack of a better word, that could go in Rumpke recycling, but because they're kind of a nice big size, some people have said, hey, I'd like to have those. We had a teacher who took one because they were doing some sort of raffle at school and she needed something to be able to put the raffle tickets in. So if it's something that we think is reusable, we'll put it on our shelves for reuse, because reuse is preferable to recycling, because reuse takes zero resources, to have that used again.
So the message would be then to call or email you all and say, I've got X, Y, Z.
Mhm.
You use that in your reuse.
Yep, or just look on our website too, because like I said, we've got a pretty long list of what we can take.
Okay.
Mhm.
Excellent. No, other questions from the
Oh,
audience?
Karen might have one.
I got my hand up. I just wanted to mention, Colleen, that I know you use the term beyond the bin, but as a volunteer down at the hub, I've been just struck by how many people really don't understand what can go into their recycling bin. And we spend a lot of time pulling out Rumpke things that we have to put into a Rumpke bin. And so, I think for everybody just to really pay attention and make sure you really understand from the Rumpke website or wherever you go to get that information, to make sure you're taking it to Rumpke so that Colleen doesn't have to raise money to send it to a recycler, right?
But it's one of those things, if you bring it to us once, we'll try to help you and say, hey, this could have gone in your bin at home, so then hopefully you won't make the same mistake twice, kind of thing. Yep.
Okay, further questions on in chat. Can the presentation be available to show to groups? Yeah, I would think so.
Yep. Yeah, and if there's another group specifically that you
audio
would
and
like us to make this presentation to, just send us an email and we'll set up a time.
Okay. Let's see. Could you tell us more about the places that are collection sites?
Yeah, so for right now, it's just really at the hub
Mhm.
where we're taking things, but we did kind of as part of our, excuse me, take a break. As part of our Ohio EPA grant, we're going to start having offsite collections as well. So this is like schools might create, and actually we just had one that they're in Claremont County and I can't think what the name is, but they're going to start collecting dried markers and the empty glue sticks and all of that kind of stuff. And they're going to be an offsite collection, and then they'll bring all of the stuff to us. So we've got other organizations that are kind of doing that, sort of, not officially, I guess is the best way to put it. We've got a condo association in North College Hill that's doing that, or in, I guess, College Hill, where they're collecting things and then they collectively bring it. And then you've got people like Karen Hurley, who are basically the point person for our entire neighborhood, where they'll collect them and then bring it to us. Down the line, we want to have the satellite locations where, so I'm thinking it'll probably be Mason, Florence, Batavia, and Lawrenceburg, where we'll have other, smaller spaces where people can bring things so that nobody has to go more than about half an hour to get to a hub or one of the hub satellites. And then once things are brought to those satellite locations, we'll take them back to the main hub for processing and shipping out and things like that. But right now, the hub itself in Lower Price Hill is the only place that we can accept things. We are going to try to do a couple of offsite collections. We did one actually for Loveland last October. We just got a small grant. We're going to try to do one for a neighborhood that is a lower income neighborhood that might have some barriers as far as being able to pay for fees for electronics. So we're going to try to do that this year. And we're going to try to expand a little bit more sort of offsite one-stop drop days, but nothing that would be permanent really for us, just because we can't spread ourselves too thin. I hope that helps.
Okay. Some more questions about specific items like picture frames. all
So we
types
can
of
take,
boards.
yeah, we can take some picture frames, but picture frames could also go to Indigo Hippo, which is downtown on Main Street. They are an art supply store, and they basically take in, you know, still reusable art supplies, and then it's a pay what you can fee system there. So if you have $10 to pay for something and you see something you like, say for yarn, you can pay $10. If you have $1 and that's what you can pay, they'll take that. So that would actually probably be better to go to Indigo Hippo. But we do have stuff that we collect, you know, that just kind of comes into us and it's like, hey, this has been sitting on a re-shelf for a bit. Maybe Indigo Hippo or Scrap It Up in Pleasant Ridge would prefer to have this too.
How about phones or cell phones?
Yeah, so phones falls under the electronics. So that's the $10 for everything in your car category. So if you don't have, you know, TVs or the refrigerant or light bulbs, batteries, you can have $10. We'll cover everything in your car.
Okay, how about cat litter containers?
Yeah, and as long as they're just rinsed and dry, we can take them. We can take those all the time. Most of those are number 5s. We had one woman probably about 3-4 weeks ago. She said she'd literally been saving them for 5 years because she couldn't find anywhere to go with them. And I'm like, yeah, I believe it, because it took up a lot of space. But she was very happy that she finally found a place to recycle. And then those will go to Brightmark for recycling. But we do have some people that will take those too, just for other, you know, items. They'll use them for their gardens, you know, to carry around tools or what have you.
Okay. I know in some cities they do composting on a municipal scale. My daughter lives in Seattle and they do it there. What would it take to do that in Cincinnati, do you think?
So there is some of that actually going on. We don't want to really reinvent the wheel on that one, but we can recommend. So there's Compost Now, and one of the person who's actually in charge of that is one of our board members. She does have some bins at the hub for where, after they do collections for neighborhoods, kind of in, I don't know if they're about 3-gallon buckets, they dump all of the stuff that they collect in the bins here at the hub. So there is some of that going on. And I know she actually collects at Hyde Park Farmers Market, I think, and I think there's another one and I can't think of which one it is. So there are compost options out there in Cincinnati, let's say. It's just, that's not something we want to take on because we got enough on our plate. But we can help connect you to those places though, if anybody's got questions.
All righty. Any other questions? All righty. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming and participating. And thank you, Colleen, for being a great speaker and for the work you're doing at the hub. I kind of was breathless after I finished your talk because you sound like you're very busy and handling a lot of stuff, you know, juggling a lot.
But it's all good.
Yeah, it is. So I thank you for the work you're doing there.
You're welcome.
Well, before you go, I was starting to type a question into the chat, but I might as well just ask you. I know that you said you could take the flexible packaging that Kroger brands and Simple Truth and things like that come in. But now Kroger's also has their bins in the front of the store that takes like plastic bags and things like that.
Yeah, and we can take all of that as well.
Oh, you can take the plastic bags also. Can Kroger's take, do you know if Kroger's can take those flexible packaging?
They can't take all of them. So they will take, they'll take like dry cleaning bags, they'll take newspaper bags, they'll take cereal bags, they will take bubble wrap. They can take Amazon mailers, like any bubble wrap mailer, as long as all of the paper has been taken off and out of it. They can take the overwrap. So if you get paper towels or toilet paper, that kind of the plastic that's on the outside of that, they can take, and then they can take just sort of regular stretch wrap kind of stuff, not like saran wrap kind of stuff, but anything that would have been sort of outside other packaging, I guess is the best way to put it. And then of course they're regular Kroger bags. So the bags that you would carry your food in, but not the bags that the food itself comes in, if that's.
Okay, so
fair.
the Simple Truth bags and the Kroger brand
Yeah.
bags, they could
That-
not go in Kroger's recycling.
comes
They
to
had to
us.
go to you.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks. I've
Yeah,
been
and those, and
confused.
those actually go to TerraCycle. So that's not, Kroger pays for that, but they pay TerraCycle to take care of that.
Thanks.
Okay, that sparked another question here. How about garden soil?
Yeah, so that would not be something that we would take. But again, you could probably contact the Civic Garden Center and see if they had any outlets for it. Because they do actually have a community garden, sort of cooperatives where they've got, I can't remember if it's about 20 or more community gardens around the area. And I'm sure somebody would love to be able to take that.
Okay. All righty. So I encourage you all to check out our website and certainly Colleen's website. And there is a join our team tab on our website on the Faith Communities Go Green that has a short info form to submit. And if you do that, then we'll contact you and hook you into things that you are interested in. And also remember to look for the recording and to send it out to your friends and colleagues. And you a good night and thank you very much for participating. And thank you again, Colleen. That was
Yep,
great.
you're welcome. And thank you all for attending.
Thank you.